Hello. So we're back with another one, back with Chimbles. And it's been one of those restless days, I've been thinking about a lot. I'm working on something else, which has a slideshow and a whole thing going on. But this one is more of an impromptu affair, but I think it's still important. And it's part of a series I'm working on, or let's say a constellation of interrelated concepts that are all related or pertain directly to the concept of vision. So we have, not talking about optical vision, not talking about the quality of your eyesight, nor am I talking about, visions of where you have, some sort of beatific vision of Jesus or Buddha or anything like that. I'm talking about the kind of vision that people are referring to when they say that someone is a visionary, or that someone has vision. So I want us to start thinking about, what is that? What does that entail? Can we cultivate that? Is it the kind of thing where you've either got it or you don't? What's the difference between vision and fantasy, right? So today, I'm calling this video something along the lines of the most important thing I learned at university. And I spent a long time at university. I was one of those people who was told that university was where you go to figure out what you really want to do with your life. And as it turned out, after having spent a while there, I still didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, which I think is the experience a lot of people have. And so I sort of fucked around. And so I studied psychology, but I also took classes in engineering, sociology, Italian, and music. And so I have all of these, I have this expansive range of things that I studied. So what's the most important thing I learned? Well, I don't think it's really directly related to any of those, except arguably psychology, which we'll talk about later. But it is very related to vision, and sort of the way things work and what holds us back with this. So I have a friend who's currently going through this, and I've been through this as well. And if you're at university, or as you'll see really in life, you might be going through this too. So it's something that's very much worth thinking about. And it's a way that we trap ourselves, or a way that we give ourselves an excuse to not pursue our vision, even if we have one. And here's how it goes, okay? So you'll go to your university, off you go, and you've nominated to study something. And it's probably something, hopefully, that you're interested in, or at least you think you're interested in it, because that's as good a place to start as any. And so you turn up, you have your classes, and what do you know? You get these assignments, right? These things that you must do. And they're really the only things that you must do. And especially if you're a first year and you're relatively smart and you have a fair bit of time, which you probably have both of those things if you're going to university, you realize that the things that you must do are not that demanding, frankly, right? Actually. if you broke it down into just a raw, how much time is it going to take me to do this over the course of a semester, which is, I can't remember, but probably like a dozen weeks or more long, right? If you break it down in those terms, I mean, this really takes no time at all. But you will find, especially on your first go round, your first semester or whatever, most likely, unless you kind of got this all squared away pretty early on, well, what happens is you wait until the last minute. Okay, we all know about this. We've all been here some reason in our life. And on a surface level, there doesn't seem to be anything peculiar or insidious going on here. You just think to yourself, well, I got distracted. I wanted to do some other thing. I knew it wasn't that much work, so I figured I'd just wait until I really had to do it. And what I found talking to like extremely successful students at university was it wasn't that they didn't do this. It was just that they left themselves a reasonable amount of time. Like, it wasn't that they just did everything immediately after they got it, like we all know we kind of should have. Rather, they started the assignment 5 days early instead of one day, the night before it's due, right? And that was enough for them to do the work necessary, which again, frankly, not a whole lot. And so they would get good marks. But here's the interesting thing. Here's the kicker. As soon as you get the assignments, you find yourself in this position where you believe that the only thing you should be doing are the assignments. And I mean should in a moralistic sense, right? That you ought to be doing the assignments. And so all of the things that you maybe had floating around in your head, like maybe you wanted to write a book, maybe you wanted to write a graphic novel, maybe you wanted to write a piece of music, or you wanted to do something that is drawn from your own vision, your own internal sense of what you should be doing. All of that kind of gets put by the wayside, or put on the back burner, as they call it. And now this external mandate has taken precedent in your body, mind, and soul. And so it's performing a function, because you're no longer afraid of the thing that you really should be doing. You're afraid of this semi-arbitrary, externally mandated thing that you're being told you should do. And so that allows you to compartmentalize those two things, right? Now you have this thing that you need to do in the immediate future, and then you have the stuff that you want to be doing with your life squarely on the other side of that experience, right? Squarely on the other side of that time. And so now that you've kind of done this mental trick on yourself, that you don't need to be doing what you believe you really want to be doing vocationally, now you're just procrastinating doing this semi-arbitrary thing, right? Which kind of makes sense that you would procrastinate doing this semi-arbitrary thing. I mean, it doesn't really make sense rationally, but it makes procrastination seem like less of a big deal. And then suddenly, now you can just quite simply distract yourself with nonsense, right? And this is literally how it went for me, and how I know it goes for most people. Maybe you play video games or watch television shows, or if you're a social person, maybe you go out partying. If you're, into substances, maybe you get drunk and smoke weed or whatever it is you do, and clean your house or whatever. The list is functionally endless. And you just keep on adding, thing after thing to distract yourself with, subconsciously aware that there's this hard time limit, but that you still have time. So you put it off, you put it off, you put it off. And then eventually you come to the grand, the culmination of your neglect. And you pay this sort of ultimate price that what feels like the price that you're paying is just the stress of it. You're so stressed out and you've got 12 hours to do something that it's really going to take you 20 hours to do. Again, 20 hours out of 12 weeks is really not that much, but 20 hours out of a 24-hour time span now suddenly is completely fucked and, ages you and ruins you, body, mind, and soul. And you drink, 100 coffees and you puke a couple of times or whatever, and you bargain with yourself so you can get an extension or some bullshit. You know what I mean? Like it's this sort of, it's almost like feels like the final judgment where, you've put yourself in this position and now there's nothing you can do except wear the terrible consequences. But the thing is, you get through it and it feels like, phew, I got through it, and you kind of feel like you won, weirdly, because you finished the job. You tell yourself, why didn't I just do it better? Like, why didn't I just do it when it was due, or even just start it 3 or 4 days before? But you kind of feel like, all right, at least I got through it, and I can just move on. And then the next semester, you probably do it again. You probably do the same thing again. But here's the wild part. All of that stuff that you said you were going to do, when it's all said and done and you've put in those assignments, the stuff that you were envisioning that you yourself would do for your own sake, well, suddenly all the stress and all the exhaustion that you've wrought upon yourself by not handing in the assignment, like not doing the assignment in a timely fashion, now you feel like you're entitled to a rest, right? You feel like all you want to do is just feel the relief of not having something to do. And it sort of washes over you. It's like your mind transforms into being motivated in a completely different way. And so the trick continues. It's not that you finish your assignment and then you start working on what you really want to be doing. It's that you finish the assignment, you feel like you need to take a rest, and then there's the thing about rest, the thing about having a mentality of needing a rest, like needing a nap, for example. There's really no upper limit on, you can't really qualitatively say when you're completely rejuvenated. And the thing is about sleeping or languishing, it doesn't have the ability to completely rejuvenate you. So you never feel like rested. You know what I mean? Like you remember in, have you ever played Dungeons and Dragons or like World of Warcraft? It's a thing in RPGs where you have this status which is like rested, you know what I mean? So you kind of, you're 100% there, right? Sleeping, languishing, watching television and stuff like that, that doesn't rejuvenate you in that way. It does to a degree, but the thing is that you just get to this point where you wake up, maybe you've had 2 or 3 days of like having a rest or whatever. And you don't feel fully rested, and you kind of forget about all the stuff you told yourself that you were going to do when the smoke clears, right? And you're just sort of like, it's funny, but what happens once that mental trick happens and you no longer are even kidding yourself you're going to do this stuff, where your mentality goes to is, all right, next semester, I'm going to not do this to myself. And I'm going to be the studious individual that I know I can be, and I'm going to put the assignment as a first priority, and then I can just relax for the rest of the semester. But the irony is, you're on holiday in that moment, and you're not relaxed, right? You're relaxing, or you're telling yourself that you are. But that's not leading to a state of relaxation, really. It's leading to a state of anxiety, and it's causing you to want to plan something, like do something mentally. And so you start arriving at this resolution that you're going to become this efficient doer of assignments next semester. And so can you see how you're creating a vision for yourself that you're going to do something in the future, and then when that future arrives, you don't do that thing, and then you immediately start envisioning what you're going to do in the future again. So it locks you into this phasic cycle where you're never doing what you're telling yourself you're going to do. You're merely fantasizing constantly about a future self that will do those things, that will be that guy, right? And this reminds me of an old quote from a really old philosopher, and they said, why do you postpone yourself? I've seen this around the internet a lot. Why do you postpone yourself? And, I think the simple answer is, and again, this is a cliche, but the simple answer is fear. The reality is that the higher the stakes of whatever it is you're doing, the more fear you will feel around performing that action. And so what that means is, really, if you're not able to sit with that fear, which I think most of us are not, what you're doing, you're not really envisioning a future, you're fantasizing about a future. And this doesn't stop at university. Spoiler alert, I know many people in the workplace, or who are, living the 9-to-5 existence, who believe that they're going to do this or do that when they go on holiday, or they're going to, or before they go to bed, they tell themselves that they're going to get up and, go to the gym. They tell themselves that when they get home, they're going to learn to code or they're going to whatever. And they just don't. They simply do not. And it becomes such a cycle of torment because you're not reconciling yourself with your own vision. You're just constantly letting yourself down in exchange for the gratification of a fantasy about the future. So what's the solution to this? Because it's pretty grim, right? So if you've stuck around this long, I hope you can relate to what this is. And if you know of a solution that has worked reliably for you or someone that you know or someone that you love, tell me about it. So I'm going to put my 2 cents in as to what the fix is here, because I've tried a lot of things. I'm not really past this yet, but I'm at a point where I'm starting to really contend with it. And my theory at the moment, this is going to sound strange, but I think that fear that you feel when you really consider the possibility of doing the thing, of trying to manifest your vision, right? Not even an assignment, but the thing that you really want to do. That kind of supreme feeling that you have, I think that it's always there. I remember David Foster Wallace saying, and this was, I guess, 20 years ago now, maybe more, that he felt that the greatest fear of his generation was silence. That's one thing that we find unbearable, really, to even try and exist in it. And it's what deters so many people from meditation or just sitting in quietude. And so what is a fear of silence, and how does it relate to what I'm talking about? Well, this paradigm that I'm describing here, you can see it goes like this. Set a goal, find something else in the external environment that is a more immediate goal that is being set for you, right? So that's the assignment or whatever. And then procrastinate as much as you can until you really need to do that external goal. And then when that external goal is completed, immediately terminate the fantasy that you have that you're going to continue, that you're going to do what you want to do now. Find another external goal as soon as you can, and then start procrastinating from doing that, right? And again, you know, the classic, like the self-help way or like solution to this is to cut the procrastination part out, right? So you just like do what needs to be done again and again and again. There's no procrastination. It's just like assignment, bang, bang, bang. Do a really good job on it. Do a maximally good job on it. Find some other thing that the culture tells you should want. Go after that, right? Get the, you know, whatever. And that's a solution to the procrastination, I suppose. But for most people, they find they're not really able to consistently overcome the resistance that's required to just simply lay procrastination aside altogether and just do what needs to be done day in, day out. Let alone are they able to stop doing what the culture is telling them they should do and figure out what they really want to do, right? That's like mega hard mode, right? That's like living life on legendary difficulty in the analogy of video game Halo Combat Evolved, right? Legendary, and I think that's apt because the only people who really become legendary are the people who find a way to really follow their own path. Okay, so fear of silence. I have a fear of silence. I feel like because I'm like recording a video, I'm somewhat trying to be engaging. I don't want to be silent for too long, but I'm talking about that kind of silence, of like dead air silence. I'm talking about being at peace with the feelings that you feel when there is nothing else to distract you at all. There are some people who find themselves in situations, voluntarily or involuntarily, where they're never able to even confront a situation like this because they wake up, kids are jumping on the bed, they talk to their partner or whatever, they have to make breakfast, shower, go to work, come home, do this, do that. You live in a city or something, maybe you can never really confront the silence. But for me, if you can, which I can, I'm blessed to be able to do this, you'll have a realization sitting there in that silence. Especially if you sit there long enough that your thoughts begin to subside, which can take a very long time. Sometimes you just have to be lucky and be in the kind of mood where your thoughts will subside. But once you do that, you'll become aware of an undercurrent of feelings that are omnipresent, that are always there, and it's just a question of the degree to which you are aware of them. And if you're the kind of person who doesn't do what they say they're going to do, if you're the kind of, like me, if you're the kind of person who is afraid of their own ambitions in life, then you'll find that one of the latent emotions that you encounter sitting there in the silence is fear. And you can call it anxiety. The distinction I make is that anxiety is a fear you have of something in the future, right? I think most people would agree about that. When people talk about generalized anxiety disorder, I think they think about anxiety as like this latent, negative, fearful feeling, but I think that's really just fear. And when people say, face your fears, do the hard thing, that's a lovely sentiment in terms of the degree to which you can do that, you should do that. But what happens when you kind of run out of gas? Like when you just can't muster that willpower anymore. Then you go back to distracting yourself again, right? But what if when someone says, face your fears, what if you think, well, what that means actually is face the way that I really feel all the time, right? It's not that you're facing there are phobias, I understand that, right? A fear of spiders or a fear of heights or something like that. Okay. But if you're facing your fear about doing something that you know you want to do or that you should do, and it's draining you to do that thing, and you know that you can only do that thing for a while, you can only do that thing in short, controlled bursts, there's something wrong, right? Either it's not what you really want, or it's not actually what's causing the fear. It's the fact that the distraction has been taken away that's causing the fear. See that? Because if you're always procrastinating whenever you're not doing what you should be doing, then you're always distracted, except when you're doing what you should be doing. And you could say, well, isn't doing what you should be doing also a distraction? And to a degree, that's true, but usually the things that we do that we quote unquote should be doing have the quality of not being distracting most of the time that we're doing them. And, the gym is an example of that. I'm not a huge advocate of the gym, at least not really anymore, but of course physical fitness is hugely important, and I was into the gym at one point. And yes, you're distracted when you're really exerting yourself, right? If you're really trying to do, your bench press or whatever it is. But most of the time, you're dealing with this low level of distraction. And it causes the ambient toxicity of your emotional state that you're not dealing with to start to actually rise up, right? Sort of bubbling up through the cracks or whatever. Or another way to think about it is that the level of it, which is being squashed down or compressed by this layer of extra experience you're having over the top, is now no longer being displaced by it. And it's creeping up again. And your mind is thinking, how much more of this can I deal with? But you're conflating the two things, right? You're confusing this ambient fear that you're now having to deal with a negative feeling around pursuing your own ambition. So this is a subtle point, but I think if you've gotten this far in the video, this is the takeaway, right? This is the thing that is, without doubt, the most important thing that I've said so far. Because this is something you can deal with and accustom yourself to. So you're not accustoming yourself to facing your fears of like going out and constantly draining your willpower, like trying to fight your way through your own ambitions. You're just learning to deal with the fear, right? You're acknowledging that it's the fact that it's you and your fear alone in a struggle. That's what's making you uncomfortable. Not, whatever you think, not building a website for Elon Musk or whatever the fuck. I don't know where I pulled that from, but whatever the thing is, yes, of course there's the anxiety, there's the insecurity element, there's the like, what if I fail? What if I blah, 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 blah. But again, that's anxiety. You can call that by its name, and you can deal with that in its own way. But anxiety can't exist in someone who's present, right? You've probably encountered this idea before, but that's true, because you can't be afraid of the future if you're totally engrossed in the present. But you can be afraid if you're engrossed in the present. And this is where that expression, feel the fear and do it anyway. Well, what about just feel the fear and see what happens for a while? Feel it for a while. I'm not saying like just feel it indefinitely and never procrastinate, never do anything. Just try taking a break, taking 15 minutes, and instead of going on your phone, whatever it is, sit in a room it's as quiet as can be. You can put on like a white noise machine or a rain sound or something, and focus on your breath in and out, slow breathing. And it's slow breathing because it's your way of creating a feedback loop with your body of saying, there's nothing to be afraid of right now, but we still feel that fear, right? And, again, there's all kinds of ways you can manage this. For some people, it's by going to psychotherapy and trying to heal whatever traumas they've felt up to that point, or whatever neurochemical imbalances they might perceive they have, right? With psychiatry. Or for some people, it's with faith, right? Which is its own kind of technology, which we'll talk about another time. I'm really looking forward to that. But that feeling, even if you don't have those auxiliary management systems, you can accustom yourself to that feeling. And that's really what facing your fear is to me. It's not about doing things. It's about not doing things and then having the courage and the stamina to exist in that state. And not obsessing about it. Like, probably another important thing I need to just mention here is I'm not saying fixate on it, right? What you want to get to a point is that you can sit in a quiet room and feel serene. Because you'll find this is going to help you with your procrastination as well. Because if you feel serene, why would you have a strong desire to watch television or scroll Instagram or TikTok or whatever if you feel fine by yourself, alone, in quietude, right? So it dovetails into the idea of loving yourself as well and loving life, because if you're good without any of the other stuff, then you are in a really good position to actually investigate what it is that you want without constantly falling for worldly distraction after worldly distraction. Okay, I'm sure this has gone on long enough. I really do hope someone found it helpful, and that person is me. So someone has found it helpful. If an additional person finds it helpful, which is you, then I'm very glad, and I appreciate that you took the time, because I'm sure this is a long video. I will be coming back with more stuff that's actually kind of researched, maybe scripted, but probably not. Closing thought, because I don't really know where else I'm going to fit this. I'm sure I'll mention it again in the future. Most of what I said just now, I had not thought of before. So I planned a little bit mentally, but I really just made it up. And, certain kind of impatient person who definitely hasn't made it to this far in the video will say, it's pretty obvious you made it up because you were speaking slowly and you said a lot and whatever. But I don't think this is how, I think this is an illusion that a lot of people have about big jobs, right? Like, if I was to write this as a speech, it's gone for 43 minutes, right? I would be really intimidated if an hour ago I had said to myself, I have to present a 43-minute speech in 15 minutes, right? I would go, fuck, what am I going to talk about? Right? But instead I just did it. And actually, I think this is how writing books works too. It's so many people, people say, I think I've got a book in me. And it's easy to confuse what that means. I think some people think what that means is that they've written the book in their head already, or that all the ideas that they're going to put in the book, they've already had those ideas and they're just going to kind of, put them out there. But I don't think that's how books are written, and I don't think that's how vision actually works, right? It might sound obvious, but realizing a vision doesn't mean seeing exactly how it's going to be from start to finish, and planning it all out meticulously, and then, going about executing it and trying to manifest that into reality. Vision is about following a tiny little inkling, a little spark that happens in your head. It's a very special kind of spark that makes you think, I think this could work. And makes you think, it's not about profiting from it, it's not about being validated, it's just about me feeling like this could work and I want to do it. right? That's what vision is. So if you have that feeling about something, anything, just that tiny little spark, that little hint that you could and should do something, then I wish you all the best. And let me know about it. And if you've done it already, then I will check it out. And otherwise, tell me when are you going to do it and what the idea is and where it came from. Alrighty, lots of love, guys, especially to you, Josh, if you're watching this. And take it easy.